Hi, we're going to do a walkthrough for installing OpenCATS on a shared hosting platform. So your Godaddy account, Bluehost account, something like that. A lot of people have those. You've got a website up and running. You need a Godaddy account to do it generally. So if you have an account like that, you can install OpenCATS and have a great applicant tracking system up and running for free. It doesn't cost anything. All the infrastructure is there in your existing account. So we'll walk through. I'm going to babble for a few minutes in the beginning just to kind of talk about the upsides and downsides. So, shared hosting, in a nutshell, you can install OpenCATS on your shared hosting account. The single biggest advantage is that it's web accessible to anyone and everyone. And by that I mean your team or just you if you're solo. If you install it on your local computer, then you can only access it from your local computer. If you install it on shared hosting or a server, if you are technical enough to get through that, it's a fully functional multi-user ATS. So if there are other people on your team in different locations, they can all have their own account. They can all access your OpenCATS ATS from anywhere in the world. If you are away from your home or your office and you want to pull it up, you can pull it up on your phone. It's totally accessible by installing it on a shared hosting service. So that's really the single biggest thing. Now you lose a couple things. Maybe it's a big deal for you, maybe not. There is no resume indexing, there is no resume parsing. So what that means is there's no keyword searching the resumes inside your database. Now, depending on your niche, depending on what you're recruiting for, how you're recruiting, maybe that's a critical no-go. Maybe it's no big deal. I've run OpenCATS for years and years, and I've just never used resume indexing or resume parsing. It's not that hard for me to work around that. There is some tagging functionality built into the system, which I haven't really touched in the documentation or the videos yet, but if you understand what tagging is conceptually, you can go through and tag any candidate with the skills, and those tags are keyword searchable. So there are some ways around it, and I will definitely get into tagging in some of the later information that gets put together. So for now, just understand the advantages and disadvantages. But again, we're talking about free software, and free in the sense of open source software. So not just no cost, but really no limitations, though with OpenCATS there are a few small limitations. The other thing I have to stress on the front end, if you have anything running on your shared host, especially anything business critical, you must back it up before you do this process. If you have a website, a business web, any website, back it up. I actually took down my website on accident the first time I was sort of working through this process because I changed the PHP version, and I'll get into that as we go. But if you've got a website running one version of PHP and you switch it to another one, then most likely your website will not work anymore. So please, 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 before you do anything, make sure your website is backed up. Make sure any programs you've got running on your shared hosting that are critical to your business are backed up and restorable. Having said that, let's move on. I'm going to follow the instructions. So, left side of the browser, I've got my hosting account on the screen. Right side of the screen, I've got my OpenCATS documentation. I'm going to have the website in the notes, but it is opencats-documentation.readthedocs.io. Don't worry about this. And if you log in, you'll see there's a nice table of contents on the left. We are doing the shared hosting installation. So we'll go to that section. Should be a little bit about the benefits. First thing we're going to do is download OpenCATS to my local computer. Click this link. It will automatically download, or should. It's done. So we're going to leave that there. cPanel File Manager. So if you haven't logged in yet, log in. I use Bluehost for my shared hosting. I have helped someone else install this on Godaddy. It was virtually identical. Any shared hosting should at least be similar. There may be some differences that you may have to sort out, but this is the main interface. We're going to click cPanel. Bluehost for some reason kicks you to an old version by default, so you actually have to click cPanel, and there's some additional stuff that comes up. So I'm going to keep this over here. Okay, I tried to put some boxes and arrows to highlight what we're doing. Scroll down to the Files section, click File Manager. These are the sections. Here's the File section. Here's File Manager. We're going to click it. It opens a new tab. It will log us in. Good. Back over here in the directions. Double click your main web directory. Now this is something I think is different for each shared host. So mine is public HTML. It's got the little picture right there. This is the software that is served out to the internet. All this other stuff is sort of private. So we want to be in this directory, otherwise OpenCATS won't be accessible. So we're going to double click this, and then all of this will be this directory listing that's in our public HTML folder. Back to the directions, I've got some arrows kind of pointing to what we want to click. This one over here, this just sort of confirms what directory we're in. This is where we want to be. Now we need to upload the OpenCATS file that we just downloaded into this directory, and we're going to do that by clicking Upload right here. Choose File. This is my downloads directory. I've got a couple of them because I've done this a couple times. Now, it'll just upload. The only reason I'm getting that is because it's already sitting there. So I'm going to re-upload it. Now, wait until the upload is done. Do not click back. Don't close out, or the install won't work. So you can see in the bottom left corner, I've got an uploading with a percentage. I've got my bar down here showing some status. We need to wait. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down. We're past this. Past this. This is where we're at. Still waiting. It's almost done. Okay, it's done now. When it's finished, go back to public HTML. This is really what we want to click. That takes us back into our directory. Now we're going to maximize this. We're going to find the OpenCATS file. Now it's going to be named OpenCATS -0.9.3-3.tar.gz, and then we're going to extract this, and there's one of two ways. This is a compressed file, so we're going to uncompress it. So we can either right click and hit extract, or we can select the file and hit extract up here. This is all fine. We want it to be in the public HTML. Good. It's extracted. We can hit close. Now right here we see the directory we just extracted from that file, OpenCATS -0.9.3.3. Let's go back to the directions. This is all done. There's our file directory. Now, if you want to rename it, now's a good time to do it. If we leave it like this, then every time you log in, this is going to be the end part of the address. So for example, my domain is bienvillerecruiting.com. So if I leave this, which I'm going to for the tutorial, for the walkthrough, I'm going to have to log into bienvillerecruiting.com /OpenCATS-0.9.3.3. If you want to rename it to something more reasonable, like this up here, this is what I normally do, ATS. If we renamed it to ATS, then it would be bienvillerecruiting.com /ATS. As a side note, if you know how to do subdomains or name forwarding or anything like that, you can change it however you want to. But for the purpose of this, we're going to keep it simple. I'm going to not rename it. This is what we're going to work with. But if you want to rename it, just double click, call it whatever you want. No big deal. So let's continue. Oh, we need to check for an install block. So let's double click in the directory. Some of our files have an install block in them. If you have an install block, you can't install OpenCATS. That's what it's there for. It's to prevent you reinstalling over a system that you don't want to reinstall over. So we're in the main directory now. We're just going to do a quick scan for a file that's named install block, which we do not have. That's good. If you click the link in the documentation, there should not be an install block. If you downloaded one of the other files, there may be. Check for it. If there's an install block, right click, click delete, get rid of it. All right, we're done here. Let's go back to cPanel. We don't need this. Close it. We're back in cPanel over here. Now we're going to check our PHP. We need PHP 5.6. We can't use anything lower or anything higher. OpenCATS doesn't work yet with PHP 7. Composer does not work with PHP 5.5. So we can only use PHP 5.6 for the time being. They are working on bringing PHP 7 on the table. So we're going to go down to the programming section and click PHP config. So we're looking at the sections again. We want programming right here. PHP config, click it. Now for this, these are our different PHP options on our shared hosting. I've already got it set to PHP 5.6. Before we do this, I'm going to stress again, if you have a business website and you change your PHP version, pretty sure it's going to just crash. Make sure it's backed up, otherwise you could be in a bad place. Now, these all do the same thing. There are different variances, I guess, on how the configuration files work. I like this one. I click that. You can use any of these three. Wouldn't hurt for you to know the differences. I'm not going to go into it. Pick the one you want, scroll down, click Save Changes. That's it. Down at the bottom, go back. It'll take us back to our cPanel. We can install a MySQL database. Scroll down to Database Tools, click MySQL Wizard. There's a few ways to make a database on cPanel. The MySQL Wizard is the easiest. That's what I'm going to do for the walkthrough. So, Database Tools, we're looking for Database Tools right here. We want MySQL Wizard. Click it. Now, we do have limitations on how many characters we can use, so I'm going to have to try and keep it a little short. Also, Bluehost, maybe other web hosts, they like to add in something account specific. on your database on the front end, so this will automatically be part of the name, the database name and the username. But I'm going to call this OC3, 3 test. That's my database. OC3 test. I want to use the same password. And create user. Now, good time to write this down. You need that. You're going to need it later. Either write it down or the next screen I tend to leave open so that way I can just refer back to it. This right here, you must check. This basically lets this user write to and make changes on this database. If this is not checked, nothing will work. This needs to be checked. All privileges, everything. Next step. Good. It's done. This is the screen I leave open. This has my user. Now has privileges on database. This is my database password. They're the same. You can do it that way. I would not make everything the same, and I would use a complicated password. This is out on the internet. So put a better username, put a better password. But I'm going to leave this open. So I'm going to return home, but in a new tab. You don't have to, it's up to you. But this information you will need, so if you're not going to leave the tab open, write it down. Okay, back on my main cPanel screen. We just went through all of this stuff. SSH. Now, on Bluehost, I can turn SSH on and off. If you have Godaddy, you're going to have to enable it and then wait up to, I think, 72 hours. There's no way to speed that up. There's nothing you can do. You can't just turn it on and off. Godaddy activates it. It takes a couple days. So you go through, you click enable, we'll walk through up to that point, and then there's nothing you can do until they notify you that it's ready. So anyway, main cPanel, go down to security, click SSH cell. So let's find the security section right here. We want SSH shell access right here. Click it. Now I'll say it now, I'm going to say it after. When you go through this and you do the SSH portion of these instructions and you're done, turn your SSH access back off. It's like leaving a door wide open. You're going to get scanned all day, every day. Don't leave it open. Turn it off when you're done. Bluehost, it says manage SSH access. Godaddy, I think it just says enable. I can't remember. Alright, so right now it says no shell. That's good. That means it's closed. I'm going to change it to real shell bash and then hit submit. Again, on Godaddy, I think you just click enable and then you just have to wait a couple days. There's nothing you can do. They should notify you, maybe send you an email when it's ready. After that, you can sort of pick up from this point. Now, it says no shell. That's a lie. I'm going to refresh. Boom, real shell. It's there. We're good. We're moving forward. Okay, so this is what we just did. I think we're done. Yes. Now, we have to use a different program to SSH into our account. Okay. Putty is an SSH program and it's available for Linux and Windows for free. So I'm using that for the walkthrough. There is a link right here for the Windows version of Putty. If you're on Ubuntu, you can install most Linux distributions. It should be in the repositories, but if it's not, just Google it. You should be able to install it. So We're going to go ahead. First of all, we're done here. Let's close this out. At this point, you should install PuTTY on your machine. We're going to close this out. Go back to, actually, we want the cPanel. I want to keep this open, so I'm going to right click, open new tab, get back to the main cPanel screen. Okay, now this information right here is what we're going to need, just this, to log in with PuTTY. So, okay, and Windows or Linux, it's going to look pretty similar. So first thing I'm going to do is my host name or IP address. For me, that's this, bnbillrecruiting.com. Now, one thing to point out, the password that you're going to use is your main web hosting, shared hosting password. So your Godaddy account password, Bluehost account password. None of the stuff that we've done so far, not the database, not your cPanel, your whatever, your main account password, that's what they want for the SSH stuff. Now, bnbillrecruiting.com, whatever your domain is, make sure SSH is selected. It should be by default. Click open. Get a nice black terminal box. My username, again, it's an account thing. Linux Rec. That's me. Enter. I'm not doing my password here, so 1 second. Alright, before you go plowing ahead, there's a couple things I want to point out. On PuTTY, I think SSH in general, when you type a password, you don't see anything at all. You don't see asterisks, you don't see characters, numbers, letters being entered, you see nothing. Okay, so type it in, hit enter, you'll be okay, but you will not see anything. I have entered my password and I'm hitting enter now. Let me try that again. Now I'm hitting enter. Okay, it worked. Now, this little pound sign, that says we're good. We are logged in. We want the pound prompt. If it's the wrong password, sort that out. But I'm logged in. Good, this is exactly where I want to be. I'm going to get these directions caught up. We want the pound prompt. Good. Now, Bluehost, this is where we want to be, but I'm not going to do this. I want, because it may be different for different hosts, so I want to just kind of show you how to find the right directory. We want to be in our OpenCATS directory, which is in the public HTML directory, or whatever it's named in your host. So we can look and see where we're at by typing ls, enter. This shows all the files, and again, we're looking for something HTML related. For me, it is public_HTML. So I'm going to move into that directory, and I'm going to do that by typing cd for change directory, space, public, HTML. Now, if it's lowercase, it needs to be lowercase. If it's uppercase, it needs to be uppercase. If there's an underscore, it has to be exact. Hit enter. We're in it. ls, list the files. We are in the public HTML directory. Now, the OpenCATS directory that we created is right here. If you renamed it, you want to find the one you renamed. So once again, I'm going to move into this directory. So I'm going to say cd space OpenCATS -0.9.3-3. Now again, uppercase, lowercase has to match. I don't think it'll work if you don't do it exactly right. Hit enter. We're in the OpenCATS directory. Outstanding. Now we can proceed with the next step, which is installing Composer. So we're going to download it first. Also, I don't think you can copy and paste into PuTTY. I think you can, but you've got to do a couple things to it. I'm not going to do that, so I have to manually type this. Again, everything has to be correct. Now before, oops, that's not correct. Now before I move forward, I want to, hold on, move this. This little symbol, for you non-Linux people, you may not have the slightest idea what that is. On my keyboard, I don't know how other keyboards are, but it is above the enter key, above the backslash, so you have to press shift backslash and it gets you this nice straight vertical line. I don't have the slightest idea what that's called. Click enter. It's going to download Composer into the OpenCATS directory. Composer is a small program that will install some extra dependencies that OpenCATS needs to run. So that'll probably take you a little longer because I've already done this, but green, yellow, everything's good. Next step. PHP space composer dot phar space install. Enter. You must be in the OpenCATS directory to do this. If you're in a different directory, it will not work. Now, this part on your machine can take like a half an hour. It's downloading and installing about 40 different dependencies. The only reason it went so quickly for me is because it's already been done. Green is good. If you get red, something's wrong. Let us know on the forums or get on Google and try and sort it out. Hopefully there won't be any issues. Now that's all we need to do in the SSH. So we can hit exit, get out. Now the first thing we need to do is close the SSH off. So we're going back into security, clicking on SSH shell access. Again, this is like leaving a door wide open. You don't want to leave open. Close SSH when you're done. Manage SSH access. So we're going to put this back on no shell and hit submit. And again, it's showing that, but that's just not refreshed. So I'm going to refresh it one more time. And it'll show that it is turned off. Okay, good. So we're done with that. Let's move on the direction. So this is it, really, in our cPanel. The rest is in the browser. So we can close this. We can close this. We do still want this. We still need this as our database information. So for now, I'm going to do this. Go to whatever your main domain is, / and then the directory. Of course, I didn't do .com. So again, if we renamed the directory or whatever, it needs to be exact, and that includes capital letters. Now, I may eat my words, but well, I'm not going to test that right now, but just make sure it's identical to the directory name. Okay, so I'm going to maximize this, click Installation Wizard. This is fine. Yellow, we don't need LDAP. If SOAP is yellow, don't need it. Any red down here, those are permissions issues. That's a problem. You can't install if you see red. LDAP, SOAP, those are the most common ones. You do not need them. They don't really provide any functionality. This is the database screen. This is what we need this for. This is our username. Except I messed up. Whatever, it's the same, but this is actually the database name. So we would want to put this one over here if they're different. And then the next one is our username, which is this first one over here, the password. Hopefully you have a long, complicated password. Localhost, this needs to stay localhost. And then we click Test Database Connectivity, all green. That means our software front end can communicate with our database back end. That's good. We no longer need this. Close close it. Okay, we can click Next. New installation. This is useless. We can't use this on the shared hosting. We're going to click skip this step. If you know your email settings, the SMTP settings, you can enter it here. This will work with your email definitely in shared hosting. So fill all that out if you want. I'm not going to. I'm going to click None. It works fine without email. You just can't send emails from the system. Don't know if there's any background noise on this video, but I apologize. There is some work being done outside. Set your time zone. I have had this set wrong before. You get timestamps that are all crazy all over the place. I spent maybe an hour trying to figure out why I had entered candidate notes at 2 in the morning. It made no sense. It's because I had this set wrong. Zip code lookup. If you want to install it if you're in the United States. All it does when you put in a zip code, it'll populate the city and state. So, it's a nice little thing, I guess. Doesn't come in that handy. That's it. It's done. Username admin, password admin, start OpenCATS. Okay, so we're good. We've got a nice empty system. The first thing you need to do is change your password. This is out there wide open on the internet. Hit settings, hit change password, old password, admin, new password, new password. Change password, it'll boot you out. Good. Relog in. Okay, apparently. Okay, that's it. You have a shiny new empty OpenCATS system waiting for love. Let us know what you think in the comments. You can ask for help at the forums. I believe that website is forums.opencats.org, but you can just Google it too. So, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.